We are going into the training saying, look, if your arm gets hit, you're bleeding out. This is the beginning of the AUFire series that we're doing at Dynamis because we want to highlight the AUFire capabilities. And today I have this all laid out in front of me. I'm going to start getting this put on, but what we're focusing on today is working with a tourniquet. We figured there was no better place to start. Now, some guys are not carrying it on their body. I always recommend carrying it on their body. Right now I have a cat tourniquet on me, and this is really what guys are running. It's approved, it's been tried and true. This cat tourniquet, it might be a little bit more bulky than some of the other stuff out there like the rat tourniquet, but the truth is that it's working better consistently than any of the other brands out there. So I highly recommend making sure that you always have one of these on you, especially if you're in a job where you're exposing yourself to different environments that are gonna have high risk. So right now, I'm running my Adaptive X jeans, which have the slash pocket back here. If I am doing anything deliberate, I'll typically run this cat tourniquet in my back pocket, or at least in a bag off my body, if I can. And again, I can take this with me anywhere. I can take this into Disneyland. I can take it with me through any public transportation. This will go in my back pocket or in a bag pretty seamlessly. So I'm gonna run this in this back pocket to get reps in today because I wanna have it readily accessible. Now, running a tourniquet and training that is really important, but now we're gonna up the game a little bit. We're gonna level up because when I put AUFire on and I run the AUFire capability, essentially what I'm doing is I'm adding a capability for a coach that's running a panel to be able to add stimulus to this, an unknown stimulus that one of my arms is gonna get shut down. And I don't know which arm it's gonna be, and I also don't know how my arm's gonna lock up. I can get extensor muscles or flexor muscles in a way that causes a very difficult pathway for me to get my tourniquet on. Typical tourniquet training, you see guys under duress, under time, and that's great. That's really good. We're gonna add that today. But what they don't get is an unknown stimulus of saying, like, hey, your arm is shut down in a way that you're not expecting. And that's exactly what's gonna happen in reality. We are gonna see the limb or the stimulation or the ambush where you're looking at an arm that's mangled, or your hand is completely gone, or your radial is completely broken and snapped, or it's snapped off the elbow and twisted backwards. Like, these are realistic scenarios and you don't train for them until you see them. So how can we get closer to that reality? With AUFire. And that's why AUFire has been such a mind-blowing capability that we've adopted in all of our training, because it levels you up and it adds such a huge leap in training value that we can't not add it. So yeah, we're doing TQ today, but we're gonna add this capability to add that ambush and that unknown to the stimulus. That way I have to work through that problem. So I'm gonna suit up, and you guys are gonna see me once I finally get to that point where I'm ready to go. I think we're gonna do a couple tests just to look at how the low intensity is affecting what part of my arm and what limb and how it's curling up my arm. We've done a lot of AUFire stuff in the past, and it never gets any more pleasant. But the truth is that we want to see what's happening to my actual limb so that the coach can understand how he's going to add that stimulus under duress and through these scenarios. So I'm putting this on, which is going to help the contact of the diodes on there. And I want to make sure I get a good amount of my bicep and my forearms. And when I get hit with that stimulus, it's going to help transfer that stem right to the muscle group. So this is the left arm. I typically put the sleeves on first and then I'll throw the pack on. And you can pretty much do this whole thing by yourself. Eventually I'll get to a point where I need to click these in. And I may even try doing it on my own today, just to see how far along I can get. So if I put this on and then strap this on next, here's where these clip in, and there's 6 buttons here that go into this, and I think I might actually be able to get this on my own. Once I get the first one started, I should be good to go. And I'm just doing it on my own just to show you how easy it actually is to get set up. And yes, if you have somebody helping you, it's gonna be more effective and a little bit faster, but you can do it on your own. So there we go, I got all 6 dialed in. This one's in, ready to go. So all I'm gonna do is Zip that up. Make sure that these red dots are actually on the muscle group that I want to control. So these two are right on my bicep. Of course, I did that Iwo Jima workout this morning, so it's going to feel really good. I always seem to do a really hard workout the morning before I run these, but I wouldn't have it any other way. All right, so now I'm going to tighten this side up. Just get these straps out of the way to make sure that I'm tightening that down and sticking it on that muscle group. I'm going to come over the top here. Make sure that's good to go. Okay, so this side's good to go. I was able to put that on my own. So now I'm gonna run this side next. And I'm gonna have to power this bad boy up once I get it all situated. And then we're gonna make sure that we're on the right channel, the right group. Okay, this one's gonna come to this side. And like I said, the most difficult one is this first button. But once I get that set and that reference point, this should be good to go. There we go. That one's set, that one's set. Like I said, that first one's really the only one that's a pain in the butt. Okay, that's all 6 of them now. So those are all on. Zip that up, make sure that these are on the bicep. So the whole idea of this system is that we can add it to any part of our training. Today, obviously isolating the tourniquet. I cannot stress enough how medical training is critical. Doing medical training in a way that's unpredictable is even better, which is what we're doing today. So if you think about doing something with a tourniquet, where typically guys are like, your left arm's down or your left leg's down. I'm kind of like, okay, well, this arm's down. That doesn't necessarily mean I can't use the arm. So where are we building training scars in our training? You know, by saying your left arm's down, do I just let this arm go limp and say, okay, well, I can't use it, so I kind of just need to get the tourniquet on? Like, that's one way to do it, but I'm also building a little bit of a training scar because I'm telling my body not to use that arm. In my opinion, that's a bad rep. You're creating bad motor memory. Now, if he shuts down my arm, then I don't have a choice whether the arm is shut down or not. I'm not making the conscious decision to not use my arm. I have to fight through this regardless of what it is. So if you want to go ahead and fire up the pack, and this is 2, so make sure that you're on channel 2. Once you pick the dial, and all you need to do is, you'll see that there's full battery power and that we're on 2. Okay, once we're at this point, then we're gonna look at this panel here and essentially look at the different intensities. We're gonna start on intensity 1, just to get the feel for what's what, because he's got a panel here and you can go all the way up into intensity 4. So he's gonna choose the intensity. When I actually get hit, I'm not gonna know what it is, but when we actually do the drill, this is my first rep of the day. So this is a cold drill. I always like to do cold drills because it helps expose where my level of training is. Like, my tourniquet's right where I carry it. Am I gonna be able to get it out with that stimulus and get it on effectively, nice, high and tight, and get that thing dialed in? I mean, how many times have I put a tourniquet on in my life? Hopefully, I don't fail you guys now. So I feel that in my left forearm, but it's not really stopping me. Oh, right, that's it. Good awareness, keeping your eyes up. All right, good to go. Quick check from the coach.
Looks good.
Good to go. All right, it's always very interesting putting a tourniquet onto an arm that's down, because at first I was getting a little bit of stimulus, and I think, did you ramp it up there in the middle? You ramped it up on me because I felt a complete lockup with my forearm, and you know, I had to work through that. There was nothing that I could do with my left forearm to help me with that. This was still mobile, so it's not like I was trying to shut my arm down or override something. Like, I could still move this arm, so I was still helping it along, getting the tourniquet on, but this was completely shut down. And quick check for my buddy. So tourniquet went on well, and that was rep number 1. It's all right. Worked out well. Quick check.
Yep.
Whew. Yeah, these are good reps. These are no joke. All right, guys, so we just wrapped up the AUFire reps, and I always talk about how every time I get in this thing, it always has training value to it. It's not something that I can get used to. Anytime that I get hit, it's always an unknown, and I really don't know what's gonna happen, so I can't game what the coach ends up doing or what the instructor ends up doing to my arm, whether it's an extensor muscle or my biceps curling up, and I had to work through those. I did a couple isolated with just the tourniquet. Again, this is a cat tourniquet that a lot of guys are running with out there, and I have to get this thing out as fast as possible to be able to shut that bleed down. That's what this is simulating. We are going into the training saying, look, if your arm gets hit, you're bleeding out. Now, I'm not bringing too many tactics into this because we can talk about tactics all day long. Because when you talk about win the fight, self-aid, buddy aid, there's a lot going on within those 3 phrases. If I say win the fight, well, what does that mean? Well, what's the mission? What are you there for? Are you saving somebody? Are you going to hunt somebody? Are you a civilian? What does win the fight mean? It can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Know that with your why and what you're doing. And then the second part is self-aid. Once you get to a point where the fight is won, and I say, okay, I am in a good place right now to be able to put this on. You have to determine that. I want to get to cover. I want to get out of the fight. I want to move my buddy to another area, whatever that may be. Then I want to self-aid. I want to get this bleed stopped as fast as possible, because a lot of these bleeds that we're seeing out there, you know, I could go back and forth here with win the fight and then self-aid, and then there's going to be a really fine line in some cases where there's bullets flying and you have a really bad bleed. You might actually be behind cover, and then your biggest fight that you have to deal with is that bleed. Because if you don't address it, 20 seconds later, you're out, you're passed out, and you have no blood in your head anymore, and you're incapacitated. So just think about those nuances depending on what your mission is, what your tactics are. I'm not here to teach that. What I am here to teach is that the value of having a tourniquet, having medical equipment, having life-saving equipment around you is invaluable and essential to all those guys out there putting themselves in harm's way. And even if you're just on a daily basis, or you're a father or mother or anybody else that wants to be more prepared, is having a tourniquet next and close to you is really important, especially military, law enforcement. And I have these things strategically placed. Like I said, I was running it in my Adaptive X jeans today, but when AUFire hits my arm and I get that stimulus, I have to work through that unknown. Remember, when we're ambushed in a reality-based scenario, it's going to be different. It's always going to be different, and it's always going to be that unknown. And that's what this allows me to work through, is that I didn't expect that to happen. I have an extensor muscle and my bicep towards the end, and my gun's out. How am I addressing this? How do I get my gun in the best place possible? How do I get the tourniquet out, you know, cross-drawing over across my body to be able to get that out, then manipulate it over my arm? You can't get to the point where you're doing enough reps, where you're going into the unknown. And that's why this gives you such a leap in training every single time we put it on. So make sure you guys are training with medical equipment, and AUFire plus tourniquet training, super huge value for anybody that's living in the tactical space or anybody that just wants to get good reps in. So from today, of course, the intensity, like I said, it never gets any easier to manage. You just become more adaptable through problem solving. And that's really what it comes down to, is solving the problem at hand, getting the bleed to stop, and then working through it. And the instructor didn't have to say, hey, your left arm's down. I know clearly that my left arm got hit and I have to work through the problem. Keeping my awareness up, keeping my head in the game, and then trying to be cool, calm, and collect through solving those problems. I cannot recommend AUFire enough. I cannot recommend having tourniquets enough, and both of these things put together are gonna give you guys a lot of training value. We'll see you guys on the next AUFire training series from Dynamis, and see you guys later. God bless.